Hey there folks, Peppermint81 here. Today's video is going to be a brief discussion on handgun caliber choices and the reasons why I favor one over the other. And today is primarily just going to be over the two that you see in front of you. On the left is the 45 ACP in the Taurus there, and then on the right is a 40 Smith & Wesson in the Glock 23 Gen 4. Now, I do have 9mm, and I have had them in the past. I'm not saying anything disparaging about the 9mm cartridge. I think it's an excellent cartridge. It has its role, and it can be very deadly and do just as well as these other two in the proper cartridge and the proper load. But as I said, this is primarily just going to be over the two calibers that you see in front of you right now on the 40 and 45. Now, I'll throw a little bit of technical knowledge out there. I'm not going to get overly technical about all this because I don't want to bore you to death. But I'll give you a little bit of specs on the two cartridges and why they're pretty close to each other. The 40 has some different aspects to it over the 45. I'll get into that. So we'll just start with the 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. That's this one here. This is typically the load that I like to use. This is critical defense, hollow points for the carry ammo. I typically use that in my 9mm also. And then the 45 is just a regular jacketed hollow point, as you can see there. Alright, the 40 on average, you're probably going to be looking at around 1100 feet per second in velocity. It's going to deliver roughly 450 foot-pounds of energy to the target on impact. I don't have the cavitation specs on these. You can probably find those relatively easily if you go to, say, like Hornady's website or something like that. They probably can tell you, or you can find it in different forums and stuff like that. I will say it should be obvious to you that your cavitation is going to be a lot larger for the 45 compared to the 40, and that just makes sense because the round is so much larger. And you're going to have that as you step up, you know, from 9mm to 40 to 45. So with that being said, technically, yes, for a what they call quote unquote one shot, kill or one shot stop, the larger the round, the more chances that you have for that happening, because the cavitation is going to be so large, it's going to cause a lot more damage, and you have a lot more chance of someone bleeding out quicker. Now, one thing that is interesting though is, even though, with that being said, with the 45 to a 40, and even from a 40 to a 9mm, there's certain websites that you can find on there. I don't have that information with me at the moment, but I'll annotate it in there if I can find it. If you go to several websites, we'll have statistics that come from, from ER doctors, and if you know any of them, you can ask them yourself that there's no such thing as the magical bullet, the one-stop shot. It doesn't happen hardly, at all. It's really sort of a myth. If you do ask them about this, typically, if there's someone that gets shot one time and it incapacitates them or is fatal, is only about 30% of the time. So only 30% of gunshot victims in a handgun caliber is it fatal or incapacitates them. On average, it takes 2 to 3 rounds to incapacitate anyone, regardless of caliber. So that means you got to hit someone, even if you're running with a 45, 2 or 3 times on average for you to stop them. So you hit them once, odds are they're still going to be in the fight. And as I said, it's only 30% of the time is it fatal. So, with that being said, with the 45, it is a slower round. It's moving at about 850 compared to that 1100 on the 40. And the energy transferred is about 350 roughly foot-pounds of energy to the target. So it is slower and it delivers less, energy to the target. But the cavitation is a bit larger. So you do have a little bit more of a chance of it being fatal compared to a 40 or say a 9mm, but not that much. So that's why I think it's kind of crazy that, people think that, oh, well, I've got to run a 45 or a 50 cal out of my Desert Eagle or something, because I want to be able to shoot someone once and they're going to go down. I'm sorry, but that is just not a fact. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to hit someone 2 or 3 times before it even stops them. let alone is fatal. And it's just because of the nature of the round. A handgun caliber is already way underpowered when it comes to terms of stopping someone. If you want to stop someone, you either need something out of a 12 gauge shotgun or a rifle. That's the only thing that's going to kill them with one shot on a higher average than 30%, or not have to hit them 2 or 3 times. This is something that, if you ask somebody who is in, say, law enforcement, that has seen this or unfortunately had to draw their weapon and do this, or if you can have some sort of access to any sort of video footage of gunfights where people are actually getting hit with rounds, you'll notice that they don't stop. It's not like in the movies where someone gets shot once and they fly across the room and land on the ground and they're just done. That doesn't happen. You get shot, they don't even know they got shot half the time, and they keep shooting back at you. So, that's why you really got to be a little bit more practical when it comes to selecting your handgun and the caliber choice. That's why, in the beginning when I didn't really know anything, I thought, oh, well, I'm never going to get a 9mm because it's a little pansy round. It's not going to be able to do anything. And then once you kind of learn, and wise up a little bit, you realize, yeah, it's still highly deadly. Heck, a 22 is deadly, if you hit him in the right spot. So, yeah, it's about round placement, or shot placement, I should say. And whether or not you hit something vital that causes someone to, their heart to stop or bleed out, extremely quickly, or you disable them, by disabling their nervous system, hitting them in the brain. That's the only thing that's going to kill someone immediately or stop them immediately. So that's why when you choose a handgun, don't pay attention to quite so much of the caliber hype. You can get a 40 or a 9mm and it'd be just as fine as a 45. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these larger calibers. I mean, heck, you can see right in front of you that, I own them. There's nothing wrong with running something with a 45 if you want to run a 45 or a 40. You want something that's got a little bit more zip, get out there real quick. There's nothing wrong with these other calibers. All I'm saying is that's a myth that you have to run with this massive round all the time before you're gonna be able to stop anybody. It's just not the case. You can run a 9mm and it'll do just fine. Now you might have to hit them more than once, but you might have to hit someone more than once with the 45, as I said earlier. So that's it. That's my 2 cents. What I have to say about that. If you got any kind of questions about any of this, or suggestions, or throw your 2 cents in as well, feel free to do so in the box below. Thanks for watching, guys. Purple Marine 81 out.